Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. So it's already almost 10:30 and I'm usually like in the midst of filming right now, but today I started super late. So hopefully this doesn't take me too long to get through. So as you can tell from the title of the video, today I'm going to be doing my July wrap up part 2. So everything or most of the things that I read during the second half of July. As a quick recap, here are most of the books that I talked about in my July wrap up part 1. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on any of these plus that one ebook, then feel free to go and check out my July wrap up part 1. And the next stack of books that I'm not going to be talking in detail about in this specific video is this stack here. And once again, I do have a couple ebooks that were a part of this group of books that I read as well, but these are all the books or all the physical books that I read for the reading rush. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, I do have mostly daily vlogs. I do have vlogs up for each of the days during the reading rush, but the last few I did combine those in like 2-day vlogs. So like I said, if you're interested in hearing any of my thoughts on the 7 books that I read during the reading rush, those videos are out, but here are the physical ones. Before I get into the books that I will be talking about in this video, I do have my final stats for the month of July. So in July, I read a total of 25 books. I read a total of 7,925 pages, and then my average rating for the month was 3.76 stars. I have 8 books to talk about with you guys in this video, so let's get started. As always, I'm going to be talking about my books from my lowest rated to my highest rated. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is a book that I did not give a rating to, and that one is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is basically a nonfiction following Michelle Obama's life. She also narrates the audiobook, so that's why I decided to go the audiobook route, especially because nonfiction is one of my genres that I'm not really a huge fan of, especially nonfiction about a specific person. I have to be truly interested in their story to really want to go out and, you know, read whatever they decided to talk about. And I have tried this out a couple different times this year so far. I think this might have been the second or third nonfiction that was about a specific person that I decided to pick up, and I feel like I had the same opinion with this one as I did with those. And it's just, I wasn't super invested in it. I feel like everyone absolutely loved this. As a person, I really enjoy Michelle Obama, and I like everything that I have seen, like the message she has put out there and everything that she's trying to do. But as far as this book, I just wasn't as interested in a lot of the topics that she talked about. There were some things that I could relate to, and I feel like I enjoyed those parts, obviously, but the good majority of it, I was just like, this probably isn't the best time for me to read this, just because I don't have an interest in some of those things, and also it could just be because of the type of reader I am. I decided not to give this a rating just because I feel weird rating the way somebody decides to tell their life story. Pick it up at your own risk. You might enjoy it. I'm pretty sure that you probably will. Most people that have read it like loved it, but it's just not my type of thing in general. Okay, so now we're moving into my rated books, and we're gonna just get right into it. Okay, so the next one that I have to talk about is Dark Fever by Karen Marie Moning. This was the Wicked Spirits book club pick for June, I believe. I gave this 1.5 stars, and the 0.5 was because I liked the world, and I think that this had potential to be a lot better than it was. This book is following this character named Michaela, but she goes by Mac. So at the beginning of the story, she is actually, like, her sister has been off studying abroad in Ireland, and she's kind of just been lazing about. She hasn't really done anything. Like, she's literally like, I work as a bartender, I don't really need to do anything, and when I'm bored, I just do that just to have something to do. But when my sister gets back from Ireland, then I'm going to, you know, go make an effort to actually have a life, pretty much is basically what she said. But then she gets a call, and turns out that her sister has been murdered, and then they end up saying that they're gonna drop the case. Pretty much it's like an unresolved case. They don't really know what happened. Doesn't accept that. She's just like, you know what, I'm gonna use all of my little savings and I'm gonna go travel to Ireland to figure out what happened to my sister. Once she gets there, she finds out that she can see Fae, and obviously that leads into a whole other side of trouble, which is also something that her sister ended up getting mixed in, which is why she got killed. And we're kind of just following Mac around as she's doing dumb stuff, making dumb decisions over and over and over. But I think having the focus being on Mac and her motives for being in Ireland just completely disrupted the story. She made a lot of terrible decisions. She went to Ireland with no plan. She had no purpose up until her sister was murdered. She was kind of just laying around and she was just like, oh yeah, let me travel to this foreign country I know nothing about, never been outside the country. I'm just gonna go do what I need to do. And she thinks that going to pester people about certain things is gonna help anything. And then when she ends up wrapped up into this situation, she tries to antagonize this person who she pretty much latched onto because he was the first person to offer her any type of answers. It was just, she was dumb, made dumb decisions, and I didn't like it. I will not be continuing on with this series. As much as I'm curious about some of the things that were going on plot wise, it's just the main character and the way things were handled with her, I just could not get with, and I don't recommend this at all. So the next book I have is Book Boyfriend by Claire Kingsley, and I gave this one 3 stars. This one is following 2 characters, Mia and Alex. So Mia is this really kind of awkward, socially awkward character. She's really into romance novels. She has this romance blog where she reviews books, and she kind of keeps that part of her life secret from her friends and family, or really her family, because from the way they talk, that she doesn't really have too many friends. She has this author friend called Lexi online, and she pretty much talks to this person online about everything. On the other hand, we're following Alex. I believe his name is Alexander, but majority of the book he goes by Alex, and he is stuck in this, I think he has like some type of computer science, possibly programming job that he just absolutely hates. He dreams of being a writer, but he is not really making any progress on his manuscript. And he's talking to his sister one day, and she's just like, you know, your writing is good, but it has no purpose. And she kind of jokingly suggests that he tries writing a romance novel to help clear his head. And they get to talking about like self-publishing and all those things, I believe, and he can't get that out of his head. So he goes back home one day and he was just like, just writes a romance novel, and he thinks it's pretty good. He lets his sister read it. She says that it's amazing. He needs to publish it. So he gets into self-publishing that way. However, he decides not to publish under his own name because he wants to have pretty good sales, because he's trying to use this to help possibly support his father with bills and stuff like that. So he publishes under the name Lexi something. I can't remember the last name he used. The two of them end up bumping into each other in a bookstore at another romance author's signing, and he basically asks her out. And after the first date, he realizes that she is the blogger that he's talking to as this author, and he decides that he's not going to see her. But then after some other things, he ends up seeing her anyway. And it starts off with the scene basically saying he made the biggest mistake of his life by going on for as long as he did without telling her that he is this author. And then we kind of backtrack to the beginning of the story and how they met and how things got to that point. With this book, I gave it, like I said, I gave this one 3 stars. It was a really stereotypical romance. I don't think there were any like super major problems. Overall, I think it was okay. Wasn't anything special. If you're looking for something quick to get through romance wise, then I think this one could possibly be a good one to check out, and it's available on Hoopla. So if you're looking for something to read, I would suggest that. Like I said, nothing special, but it was a fun read. Moving on to the next one. This one is another Wicked Spirits book club pick, and this one was Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison. This was our July pick. we have also done a live show for this one as well. This one is taking place in an alternate version of our world, and we're following this main character named Rachel. She is a bounty hunter and she's also a witch. For the past little bit, she has been getting really crappy assignments, and in the middle of like taking one of her captures back, she was just like, if I let this person go, maybe I can go ahead and get fired from my job. So, and she was just like, well, if I do that, I can start up my own business. And somebody that she works with tried to talk her out of it, but she's like, you know what's the point? They don't really want me there, or they don't need me there, obviously, because of the assignments I've been getting. So she does this, and this vampire named Ivy, one she worked with that tried to talk her out of it, convinces her that she's to let her work with her, and she's gonna quit as well. Rachel ends up getting fired like she hoped she would, but Ivy like quits before that happens. So Rachel's boss thinks that she had something to do with Ivy quitting, so because of that, he pretty much sets up a hit against her, and she spends the majority of the book trying not to get killed. But in the midst of that, to try to pay off this contract, even though she got fired, which I didn't really understand, she was just like, I'm gonna try to go take down this one guy that these people can't catch in the act, and try to turn him into basically this world's version of the FBI, which is like the FIB. It's weird, but she's just like, I'm going to try to get him and turn him in so they'll pay off my contract so these people can stop trying to kill me. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is another one where I think that the world was kind of interesting, but there wasn't a lot of follow through on some things. I felt like they spent so much time with the main character. First of all, really, the majority of the book was her going around trying to do stuff, but also trying not to get killed in the process. There was a bunch of different situations going on in this book that was just a little strange. We talk more about details about that in our live show. The next one that I have to talk about is Frostbite by Joshua Williamson. This is taking place in a post-apocalyptic United States, or really I think it's just the world in general. It's basically like a new ice age. I don't think they say that, but that's what I'm calling it. It says it's Arctic wilderness of post-apocalyptic America. So in this world, like I said, it's basically a new ice age, but people have survived and they are living in this world, but they are concentrated in certain areas, because if they go outside of these areas, they call it I think they call it just the ice, and they're just like these long stretches of just ice and snow and wind, and people aren't really able to survive out there if they don't have the right gear. But there's also this virus going around called Frostbite, and pretty much this virus, if people catch it, they start to freeze from the inside out. And it's weird because if they stay out in the cold, it keeps this virus at bay, but people's natural reaction to having this virus is to go and try to warm themselves up, which makes it like progress even faster, and that causes a whole nother issue. But we have this doctor and his daughter, who's also a doctor but a different type. They believe that they have what they need to create a cure for this virus. However, they're in Mexico City and they need to get to Alcatraz Island in order to get to this like secret government facility that has whatever they need, like the original something that created this new ice age that's going on. They need to get there for whatever materials is at this facility to be able to create this cure. But obviously, in order to be able to make it there, they need someone to be able to take them across this vast, array of space that people really can't survive on. And in comes our main character, who is on the cover. Her name is Keaton, and she's the captain of this like mercenary crew. And one of her crew members is the one who actually finds out about these two doctors and kind of takes on the job. And she's like, not for that. If they have all this money, then they should be able to get wherever they're trying to go. But she ends up helping them out anyway, because I think money, and then also she ends up in a situation where she kind of feels like she needs to help out, which I'm not really going to get into. And in this process she realizes that people are actually after them, and it's kind of a race to get to this facility that these two people are trying to get to. This is another one I gave 3.5 stars to. I think that the overall concept was really well thought out. However, I felt like this was rushed a lot. I feel like this probably could have been broken up into 1 or 2 volumes because there was not enough time to connect with characters before people start dying off. Spoiler warning, I'm not going to say who dies, but several different people die. But like, I didn't really care too much because I was just like, I don't know these people. I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't really think I could say too much more about this or really any more about it. But I gave it 3.5 stars. It was enjoyable, but not enough time spent really getting to know the characters and being able to have a connection to the characters we were introduced to. The next book that I have to talk about is Orange, the Complete Collection, Volume 1 by Ichigo Takano. This story is following this character named Naho, and on the day she's about to start 11th grade, she gets this letter from herself 10 years in the future. And basically this letter is talking about things that she regrets, but it's also giving her instructions on things to do and not to do in order to keep her classmate that is going to be transferring to her school, to keep him from committing suicide. And we're pretty much just following her along as she tries to make decisions based off of what's going on in the real world and trying to use this letter to help guide her in making certain decisions. Starting off, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. This one though, I feel like I had some mixed opinions on. I kind of like the contemporary with the sort of magical elements added into it with receiving stuff from your future self. However, like, I don't know how I feel about the overall concept of the story. I still need to purchase and read the second volume of this like complete collection to see how I feel about the overall story. But I felt like a lot of it was like really superficial things that the characters were doing, and honestly I don't know how much impact that it will have had. I don't know if things are going to change based off of the few things that they have done, just because I felt like there is a deeper problem going on with the main character or with the guy that commits suicide than just the few things that have happened. I just felt really weird about the whole situation. I enjoyed the story, but there were definitely things that I feel a little uncomfortable with just based off of what I read, and I'm curious to see how things are going to end up in that second volume. And I know there's also an Orange Future, which is like, I think, the finale wrap up to the series. So I don't know if, like, I don't know what that's about either. So I didn't look that up because I didn't want to be spoiled for whatever happens in the second part of this, but I guess I will have to get that and read it and see. I gave this one 4 stars. Like I said, I enjoyed the story, but there were some things that I felt uncomfortable about, and I'm curious to see how this is going to wrap up. The second to last book that I have to talk about is Nixia Uprising by Scott Rankin. This is the third and final book in the Nixia triad, and honestly I'm not really going to be able to get too much into details about this book, but like I said, this is the finale, and it's basically following Emmett and the rest of the crew that he is with at the beginning or at the end of Nixia Unleashed, as they're trying to find a way to get back to Earth after they realize what Babel is really doing. So as far as this book, I gave this one 4 stars as well. I feel like as far as like the action, there was action in this book, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there was so much of a focus on the romance that it kind of took some of the intensity away from everything else that was going on. I think that that's like the main point that I had to this. I still really enjoyed this. I'm glad that I finally finished this and I was able to get through this year. And the final book that I have to talk about in this video is Midnight Secretary Volume 1 by Tomu Omi. This story is following this character named Kaya, which is this lady here on the cover, and she is a secretary, and at the beginning of the story she gets transferred to one of the directors for the company that she works for, and he's known for being a really difficult person to work for. But she doesn't really let that bother her. She's doing all of her work until she accidentally finds out that he is a vampire. And he decides to take advantage of the opportunity. He's just like, you know what, you know everything now, so I need you to stay my secretary. You get to do everything and know everything, including planning my meals. So she is a little wary about what's going on, and she's just kind of worried about, like, is he gonna want to drink my blood as well? And there are some things going on with that I'm not really going to get into, but this is a series that I have read previously, and this is going to be a reread this was a reread for me, and I'm going to be collecting the physical copies of the entire series. I believe there's like 7 volumes or something like that. There's less than 10. I already have the first 3. I believe I put the others on my wish list, so when I'm ready I can just like go and just add them to my cart for my wish list. I enjoyed this story. I don't think I loved it like I did the first time, because obviously I noticed some things that aren't necessarily my favorite. I'm a lot more critical of a reader than I was when I first read this, but I did still really enjoy it. I didn't feel like there were any major issues. Like, he would do stuff that would kind of like test boundaries, but if she said no, like, we're not doing that, he was just like, okay. As grumpy as he would get, he would respect the boundaries that she set up, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I gave this one 4 stars as well. Those are all the books that I read during the second half of the month that were not part of the reading rush. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you have read in July. Let me know some of your favorite books that you read, and if you think I would enjoy anything that you picked up recently, let me know. I'm always up for new recommendations. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed recently. If you haven't already seen, I do have a giveaway currently going on my channel for Deadlock by Sherry or Cherry Lynn. The last video I posted before this one, which was my June-July book haul, I have a giveaway in the video, so go check that out if you're interested. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.